Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to give everyone a couple of seconds to get logged in, and then we will get started. All right, let's go ahead and kick this thing off. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this Duncan Aviation Straight Talk webinar. My name is Eric Anderson, and today I'm joined by members of our line services team to discuss Duncan Aviation's FBO services. With me today, we have a group of great guys. Do you guys want to take a quick second to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Troy Heiberger. I'm the FBO Services Manager for our Lincoln facility, and I've been with Duncan Aviation for 29 years.
I'm Cody Lynn. I'm an FBO Services Team Leader at our Kalamazoo facility, and I've been working for Duncan for 4 years.
I'm Trent Zwiers. I'm the FBO Supervisor for Battle Creek in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I've been with Duncan for over 6 years.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mason McGowan. I'm a line service representative in Provo, and I've been with Duncan for just over a year now.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And we do have Bob Cornett, who might be joining us later. He's taking care of a customer right now, so he might jump on a little later in our webinar. So a couple of notes before we get started. Everyone who registers for this webinar will receive the replay video in their inbox, so be looking out for that. And also, if at any point you guys have questions during the webinar, please send those to us using the chat bar on the right side of your screen. We'll do our best to get to as many of those as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. Troy, will you tell us more about what an FBO is and the different services we offer?
Will do. Thanks, Eric. FBO, we get this question asked a lot. What is an FBO? Well, an FBO is the general aviation side of aviation that takes care of customers and passengers, which is a little bit different than the commercial side, to where the airline passenger terminals would be. And FBO stands for Fixed Base Operators. And that was started right after World War I, when a lot of military pilots came back from overseas. And the FBO part of it, they needed a fixed location, like at an airport, so they could get maintenance and fuel. And so that's kind of where that term fixed-based operator came from. Now, Duncan Aviation, we have 4 locations. We have Lincoln, Nebraska, Battle Creek, Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and our newest location is Provo, Utah. And some of the services we provide are different at each location, but generally the same. So we offer 2 types of fuel, avgas and jet fuel. Avgas is for piston aircraft, and jet fuel is for turbine-powered aircraft. We do everything from getting the aircraft ready for a flight before the pilots arrive, and offer services that they would need before or during their trips in and out of our locations. So some of the things that we would do is, one is provide fuel services, de-icing services, and winter operations at all of our locations. Customer may need special catering delivered to the aircraft, either for the flight crew or for their passengers. We service the labs and potable water, provide coffee, ice, newspapers, anything that a customer would need or want for their next leg of their trip. Some of the amenities that we have at the FBOs, different based on locations, but we have sleep rooms for flight crew members, complimentary internet, flight weather radars so they can check weather before their next leg. We have fitness rooms for flight crews standing by waiting if they're going to be on the ground for a couple hours. We have international garbage at 2 of our locations. We provide courtesy cars and courtesy transportation to the commercial airlines, or for if a customer is coming in for a business trip, we can give them a car for a couple of hours so they can run into town without having to get a rental. Our front desk teams are kind of our 911 centers of the FBOs. They take all incoming calls from flight crews via airing radios or by phone. They make the majority of our reservations. I know here in Lincoln, we make about 6,000 hotel rooms a year and about 1,500 rental car reservations per year. And so all that generates a lot of traffic and kind of give you a good overview of what an FBO does. One of our main things that we do is called quick turn service, and a quick turn is kind of like a NASCAR pit crew. So a customer will call 10, 15 minutes out, need a certain amount of fuel, and we'll have the truck standing by. We come in, the passengers unload, use the facilities, and we put on fuel, ice catering, and get them set on their way. And they're usually out within 15 to 20 minutes. So that's kind of a general overview of what an FBO does.
Awesome. Thank you, Troy. I didn't realize that you guys make that many hotel reservations a year. It's kind of crazy. So moving on, I know that safety is always a huge part of the daily operations here at Duncan Aviation. I've seen ISBA thrown around a bit when discussing FBOs. Can one of you talk about ISBA and explain what it is and why it's so important?
Yeah, I can do that. My name's Trent. ISBA is an organization that provides a standard that allows us the infrastructure or the structure to operate with a high degree of safety. So ISBA stands for International Standard of Business Aircraft Handlers, and the standard is set forth by the International Business Aviation Council, IBAC. So there's two sides of IBAC. They have the aircraft handlers, ISBA, and the aircraft operators, BTL. So both of those two forks of IBAC work together to pair operators with handlers to ensure the top level service and safety. NATA is also a part of promoting the ISBA culture, and they work together to set global industry best practices and create safety management systems for operators and handlers. As far as each FBO's current status in the ISBA tiers, there's 3 stages of ISBA. Stage 1 basically means you have defined your practices and your best policies, and you are implementing them. So an auditor comes in and does a 2-day overview of your operation and looks at every different corner to try to find where you've implemented safety practices and that you're starting to do them. And then stage 2 is 18 months after that. There has to be a certain amount of time between the audits to ensure that now stage 2, you are doing and document all of your different safety practices and that it's working. So you want to see a positive trend in safety culture, not only for the people in management, but also your entire culture for your teams. And then stage 3 is the pinnacle of the ISBA standard, which is your system works and it has improved itself and it's continuing to improve itself based on the practices and procedures and the culture that you've built around safety. So each one of those stages requires a third-party ISBA accredited auditor to come in and do an extensive look at your operation. It takes a long period of time. You can't just pop up one day and say, yep, we're stage 3. No, they need to show over time. You need to show over time to the auditor that you do these things, you've developed them, and that they work. So all 4 of our locations, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Lincoln, and Provo, all are stage 2 ISBA certified right now. And we are the only MRO to have all of our facilities at stage 2 accreditation. Next May in 2022, we will be working toward joining the ranks of only 27 operators in the world that have the stage 3 ISBA accreditation.
That's awesome. It just shows that becoming ISBA accredited, really is a thorough process. You don't just apply one day and get it the next. So that's an awesome achievement. Trent, you mentioned NATA. Will you expand on that a little more?
Yeah, so NATA is the National Air Transportation Association, and it's a 70-year-old organization that works to be a positive influence in the global scope of general aviation for aircraft handlers and aviation business service providers. So their mission is to empower aircraft service providers to be safe and successful in running aircraft businesses. So they, for example, after the pandemic broke out and things like that, they came up with a standard called Safety First Clean. And what that did is it gave us guidelines on what we should be doing to provide the highest level of safety and sanitation for all of our facilities. So we became Safety First Clean Standard certified about, I think it was in July, a couple months after the start of it. So we use NATA also for a lot of our training. They have a extensive line service training guide that walks you through from someone coming off the street with absolutely no idea what an aviation business does, and gives them all of the context towards what's expected of them, what they'll be doing, and really gives them a lot of good information for the groundwork or the base layer of what a line service representative does.
Awesome. Thanks, Trent. I see you guys have a couple of questions. We're going to hold off on answering those until we get to the end of the webinar. So moving on, you guys undoubtedly have one of the coolest jobs here at Duncan Aviation, as no day is really ever the same. Will you walk us through what a typical day looks like for you guys and the different services you offer?
Yeah, everybody, this is Mason McGowan. I'll go ahead and start this one off. Typical day in the life as a Duncan Aviation line service rep. We definitely do have one of the coolest and also the most demanding jobs here at Duncan Aviation. We do a variety of different services, kind of outlined by Troy, but de-icing, fuel services, quality checks on the fuel, a huge emphasis on customer service. Despite the fact that this is really the face of what we do, there's also a lot that we do behind the scenes to make sure everything can work safely and efficiently. We go through extensive amounts of training to get to the level that we're at. We have extensive plans and plans of action to make sure that we're able to perform to the level that we can. In addition to that, too, is we are there 24/7 a day, 365 days a year, making sure that we are there to provide the highest customer service. A lot of people think of a line team or an FBO as simply fueling the aircraft and performing basic services on the aircraft. When in actuality, we perform a lot of different tasks and services for these customers. We're there for them around the clock. We provide fuel needs, catering needs, rides to hotels, scheduling hotels, helping them with the trips. I always think of myself as an extension of the crew. So when you have a crew that comes in, whether it be, two pilots and a flight attendant, when they land and the wheels hit the ground, we become part of their team. And that's the way I like to think of it is, they show up, they come in, and we do everything in our ability to make their job as easy as possible. A lot of these flight crews have very stressful and busy lifestyles and jobs. And the goal of our FBO and our job and a day in the life as a line service rep at Duncan is to make their job as easy as possible. So like I said, by having that emphasis on customer service, being prepared and trained and having these safety measures put in place, that just makes us look really good. It makes the crew look really good. And it makes the operation just run very smoothly.
Awesome. Well put, Mason. I think it's interesting. You said, you guys are out there 24/7. I remember this winter, it was like 11:30 at night here in Lincoln. I got a picture from a guy out in Battle Creek of just this crazy snowstorm out on the ramp. And that made me realize that your job really is demanding. Every day is different. It changes depending on the weather, but no matter what, you guys are going to be out there. Yeah. I know I said sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, Eric, I was just going to add, it's a very demanding job, but I think all of us know what we signed up for, and we know that we're, in this for the long haul. And at the end of the day, it's, that dedication to our customers and the support that we give to our customers That definitely outweighs, any super cold days or super hot days. We're out there every single day prepared for whatever it may bring us. So.
Exactly. And I know I said we're going to wait till the end to jump into questions, but Steven had a great one. How do you guys accommodate rotor wing customers, and what challenges do you face with these aircraft? Can one of you answer Steven's question?
I can. The first thing that we face generally is, I'd say, over half of the rotor wing or helicopters that we see don't have landing gear. They have landing rails that they sit on, and they can't easily move. So when we deal with helicopters, we have to have a lot of forethought towards where we're going to put them, because we can't let them set in the middle where we can't move them and it's going to impede the flow of other aircraft. We have to be mindful of where to put them. So that, along with the inherent dangers to a massive spinning rotor to customers and our own personnel, we generally try to keep them a little bit further removed from, say, the main entrance, and give them their own safe operating space.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you, Steven. Moving on, I also run our social media pages for Duncan Aviation, so I'm constantly getting a bunch of pictures and videos from different team members. And I noticed the coolest pictures always come from the line team, whether it's a sunset or a unique visitor or just a fun picture. You guys, I've noticed, always have the best office view. Is being on the line services team as awesome as it looks?
It's great being on the move all day. I mean, and we get to work with so many different types of aircraft, and you meet flight crews from all over the world. So it keeps it really, really interesting. And there's rarely a dull day.
Yeah, I've noticed there's some days I'm sitting in my office and, Mason or Cody will send me a picture of just this gorgeous view. Get kind of jealous sitting at my desk.
Well, on the FBO ramps, we see every sunrise and every sunset. And so along with other storms coming in, either winter or thunderstorms rolling in, it's quite the view every day. And it takes kind of a special person to work the ramp in all weather conditions. And our goal is, of course, is always customer service, but as a line service rep, the guys are pretty free to move around. No job is the same. Every day is different. Customers are different. And then you build a rapport with your customers that continually to come in, and it becomes more like friendships than a customer employee relationship. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of Troy and Cody a little bit, it's an amazing job. I mean, if you're a people person and you like to be out there interacting with flight crews and passengers and seeing the joy on people's face when they climb off the airplane and you're sitting there with a fuel truck and their rental car and their ice or their catering or whatever they may need, it truly is an amazing feeling. And even though every aircraft, we kind of have a general idea of what they're going to need and what services they're going to take from us, every client and every customer is different. And it's a very unique job in the sense that you very much learn that one customer may have one need and the other customer may have completely different needs. And so you very much learn how to be a people person. You learn great customer service skills. You learn great communication skills. And you also learn how to adapt very well, whether it be the weather, whether it be a customer that may require something that you've never heard of before or something that you're not completely familiar with, or maybe even an aircraft that you've never seen before. We have plenty of unique visitors that come in that require different services, and it requires you to think on your feet and be a fast mover and act in very independent ways. And that's what I love about it.
Awesome. So moving on here, as we mentioned, we have 4 FBOs. Now we're going to break it down by each facility, kind of give a highlight and see what's going on. So Troy, will you talk about Lincoln?
Yeah, Lincoln, we're pretty diverse here in Lincoln. We handle the commercial airline refueling. We have military aircraft refueling. We have our GA customers. We have our base customers, and we have our own flight department customers. And so majority of our day is helping maintenance and moving aircraft for maintenance to keep the shops efficient. And mostly, a lot of times we do sports charters for the University of Nebraska here, or either incoming or outgoing. And so we see some golf charters and that kind of stuff. And so some of the larger charters would be like the commercial aircraft that you would see over at the airline terminal, and we load equipment in those and fuel them and take care of them and work with the TSA to get customers through screening on that end of it. We see a ton of military aircraft here in Lincoln due to our long runways, I think a little over 13,000 feet. And so that allows our operators to bring in some of the larger airplanes. We currently here in Lincoln now, we have Offutt Air Force Base moved from Omaha down to Lincoln for runway repair out of Omaha. And so we have about 17 to 20 additional large aircraft that have been flying around Lincoln. And that's fun to see and fun to be a part of.
One thing I think is kind of cool is how on Husker football game day is how busy that ramp can get.
It can get pretty crazy, and they're all here to have a good time. And what we do is get the aircraft ready right before as they're arriving, and then when they're getting ready to go. Several leave right after the game, and so we have to have those aircraft positioned to easily get in and out of the facility. And no, it's fun. It's a good time.
Absolutely. Trent, what's going on over at Battle Creek?
Battle Creek is similar to Lincoln. We're an MRO and an FBO, so we have a full service maintenance. You can see the size of the facility there based on the bottom picture. It's very large. We have over 45 to 50 aircraft in maintenance at any given time, while also handling any transient traffic and private flights. We're just coming into summer here, so we're happy to be transitioning out of our winter operations. This is really when we get the good pictures, a lot of the sunsets, the rainbows, and this is where we really like to be outside and working with our hands. We do a lot of maintenance support items operationally here, so I would say about 70% of our work is to support the maintenance operations, and that includes about 9,000 tows, aircraft tows a year. So we pull aircraft and reposition them for different aircraft or for different maintenance reasons. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Moving on. Cody, what about Kalamazoo, Michigan?
Sure. So Kalamazoo is a little different from our other locations because it's not attached to an MRO or one of our maintenance locations, and it's our only standalone FBO. So that makes the type of work we do slightly different versus moving a lot of maintenance aircraft around. Our day-to-day sees mostly transient business aircraft or freight or charters, kind of like what Troy was saying, working football charters. One of the most fun things we get to be a part of is when Western Michigan University's football team travels and we get to work larger aircraft like 737s, A320s, and 767s. And, I talk about the differences, but I've worked at 3 of our facilities, and we all work with the same policies and procedures, which makes it super easy to transition from place to place because we all train the same way. And over the years, we've really kind of nailed it down and made it easy for our teams to be really good at what they do.
Great. And last but definitely not least, Mason, talk us through our newest MRO and FBO in Provo, Utah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to do it. So Provo, being our newest facility, is, I would say, one of the most unique that we have. Like Battle Creek and like Lincoln, we are an MRO and we're also an FBO. Provo was placed in the location that it is due to its access to the West Coast. So for our customers coming from, whether it be California, Oregon, Washington, even some of our Midwest locations, it just provides extra support for customers that may be closer to Provo or customers that can't necessarily get in for maintenance at one of our other 2 facilities. It adds just extra support for them. Like I said, we have the MRO and the FBO. Myself working on the FBO side, we see a whole variety of aircraft, whether it be people coming in for BYU football games, whether it be families that fly in on privately owned aircraft that are here to ski or hike or see the landscapes of beautiful Utah. And we also see a lot of corporate aviation that comes in. Utah Valley is really blowing up with the tech world, with the various large companies moving in here from California. So we see a lot of these very high profile business people that come in, and they're looking to do business here in Provo and to start, maybe new endeavors or new operations here in Provo. And despite the fact that they are oftentimes, very quick moving people, they're in, they're out. They need a lot of service from us. They're a great group of people to deal with. It's fun dealing with the large corporate aircraft, the fast-paced environment, and it really is a beautiful place to live.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say if you guys haven't seen our Provo facility, check us out on social media. I try to post a bunch of pictures from that facility just because it really is beautiful and it's amazing. It's awesome to show off. So a couple of months back, I understand we had a rather important visitor at our Battle Creek and Kalamazoo facility. Cody and Trent, will you guys talk to us about what it's like to have the president stop by our FBO?
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. So a few months ago, we had, I guess over the last couple of years, we've had a few presidential visits between our Kalamazoo and Battle Creek facility. Most recently, like you said, in February, the president came to tour the Pfizer facility in Portage, which is just a few blocks from our Kalamazoo FBO. So we had the pleasure of hosting Air Force One and Marine One. It certainly made a very busy week for all of us at Duncan and the airport staff. So what was it like? I mean, initially it was sort of challenging for us to figure out what was actually going to be happening. We started getting a few phone calls with questions about our ground support capabilities for various military aircraft, hangar space, and fuel truck availability. So it took a day or two before we got confirmation that it was preparing for the elected official visiting. Most of us had kind of a gut feeling with the attention that Pfizer was getting with their COVID vaccine. There was a possibility, so it wasn't, I guess, too big of a shock. But, it wasn't quite expected, but it wasn't shocking. So the Sunday after the phone call started, the place was crawling with members of the Air Force One Advanced Team, Secret Service Presidential Protection Division, Marine One, and White House Advance. And like I've said before, we've hosted a few presidential visits and vice presidential visits over the last few years. There were, however, some differences with this visit. So ordinarily when the president travels, most of the ground support equipment gets transported by truck from various military bases. But there was a winter storm in the south the same week they were coming. So rather than trucking everything in and risking everything getting stuck somewhere in the middle of Kansas or wherever it was, they shipped everything in on C-17s. So over the course of the week, we welcomed 8 of them, and it was absolutely paradise. And the president showed up, I think it was a Thursday, just a few hours after he departed. It was like they were never there. The whole operation packed up, and all of the teams that were there moved on to their next mission. They're very, very efficient. It's what they do, and they're very good at it.
Yeah, I didn't realize how extensive that whole process was. I mean, I guess I just kind of assumed they'd fly in and fly out, but it was a multi-day experience with a ton of aircraft that stopped by.
Yeah, it's amazing what goes into it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to say most importantly, but all 4 of our FBOs are pet friendly. So you're absolutely welcome to travel with your best friend.
Yeah, each of our FBOs has plenty of stories about their favorite dogs and their favorite customers that bring their dogs constantly. This one here is in Provo, but here in Battle Creek and Kalamazoo, we get them often. So there's certain people we know always travel with their dogs, so we try to park them as near to a grassy area as we can. They're poor pups coming off of flights where they haven't used the restroom in a couple hours, and they hop off and they immediately start searching for the grass. So it's nice to just know the customers that appreciate that special parking spot.
Exactly. So we've talked about a bunch of the unique and different aircraft that stopped by. On the screen, you see just a couple of pictures that the guys have sent me over the years. Do you guys have a favorite that stopped by? And let's kind of just have an open discussion about all the unique visitors.
Yeah, this is Troy in Lincoln. We're pretty fortunate that we're in the middle of the country, and probably some of my favorite aircraft are the old warbirds. And so with Oshkosh coming up here again soon, it's our opportunity to see some of those aircraft that are vintage aircraft and are some of the rarest aircraft in the world. And so that's something that we really, really enjoy here, from P-51 Mustangs to P-40s to an actual Japanese Zero. It's just amazing to see the technology then compared to the technology today. And then again, of course, we have over 500 plus veterans that work at Duncan Aviation, and the military aircraft are always a big hit. So we see everything from C-130s to F-18s to F-16s to F-15s to the tankers, cargo and transport aircraft. So it's a lot of fun, let alone just seeing what's new out there in aviation. Being Duncan Aviation, we're fortunate to see a lot of the prototype aircraft that come out of Wichita, and so they're either doing test flights or hours flights, and they're coming in. They get lunch and we put a little fuel on them and get to see what's latest and greatest coming out in general aviation as well. One of the cool ones we had here, I think last year, was the F-18 for the movie Top Gun. And so that actual aircraft was here in Lincoln, and it drew quite the attention having Maverick's name on there. So that's stuff we like here in Lincoln.
Yeah, I love that Top Gun aircraft. I remember walking out there and taking that picture, and there's just a crowd of people standing there watching it. Cody, Mason, Trent, what about you guys? What are your favorites over the years?
So that top left picture is a A-10 Warthog, and in Battle Creek we used to have an Air National Guard operation that ran A-10s. So they've been gone now. They were removed from the airport maybe a little over 10 years ago, I think. But every once in a while we get a flight crew that comes by on a training flight or something like that, and they have a specific sound that is very, very rememberable. So every time we hear one coming, there's a lot of people in the hangars that poke their head out because they remember what it was like to see these things, and they oftentimes do some pretty cool maneuvers on their approaches. So A-10's got to be one of my favorites.
Yeah, the military airplanes are pretty cool. I definitely like the C-17s, and the bigger the better for me. I mean, when we do football charters and we have the 767s in here, that's probably my favorite. You stand back and you look at it and you're like, how can this thing fly? There's no way. This is black magic.
Yeah, and this is Mason McGowan in Provo. The military aircraft are just wonderful machines. I mean, seeing the engineering that goes into these aircraft is just amazing. For me, I would say my favorite aircraft that I get to see are the large corporate jets that come in, whether it be Bombardier products, Gulfstream products, Embraer. They're all so unique in their own way. And despite the fact that these companies develop, only a handful of aircraft, every customer has a unique spin on every aircraft they purchase. And whether it be the paint job, the interiors, features that have been added to the aircraft, it really is like an extension of these people's personality. And I love to see what people come up with and how they customize their jets. And it really makes for a picturesque and memorable moment.
Yeah, and like I said, everyone's customized. I just think of the Arctic Camo Global Express we painted out in Battle Creek. That's hands down one of my favorites. So we're going to segue into the questions now. Just a heads up, we have received a lot and we are over our time. So we'll get to a couple of those. If you don't get your question answered, one of us will reach out to you. So we had Jake ask why there are so many military aircraft that stop by our FBOs.
Well, one of the reasons is a couple of our locations have military contracts. it's a negotiation that we make with the military to provide services for them. And then, of course, we have a different set of standards the military would hold us to. So it could be different QA requirements or how their aircraft are treated. One of the things in Lincoln is we have a control tower. We have long runways and not a ton of traffic. So it makes for a perfect training location. We get a lot of students up from Vance Air Force Base in the T-38s and T-1s, and a few other locations out of Whiteman, out of Missouri, and uses for a training field. And then the long runways and our capabilities to be able to put large amounts of fuel on large aircraft make it an ideal spot right in the middle of the country for our military customers.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy. Dave, you had a great question. He asked, what is general aviation? And can you kind of talk about the differences between general aviation and business aviation?
Yeah, I can do that. So aviation is really broken into two separate categories or two general umbrellas. It's going to be either military or civil. So under military, that's kind of what Troy was just talking about and initiate or is initiated by the U.S. government or agencies of municipalities. And then civil aviation has to do with commercial aviation, so scheduled airlines, scheduled freight, charter operations, and then general aviation. So general aviation is basically the description of anything that's not scheduled and is not military. So it's going to be time demand now, corporate flight operations, personal aircraft. Anything that doesn't fall under those other categories is general aviation.
Awesome. Thanks, Trent. Next question. Do you have to have any aviation experience to work on the line team?
Yeah, Eric, I can grab this one from you. So this is Mason in Provo again. I've only been with Duncan for just over a year now. And coming into this position, I had zero aviation experience. I mean, apart from a little bit of knowledge or outside influence on kind of how an FBO works and what general aviation is and how the commercial operators handle their operation, I really wasn't familiar with the fueling procedures and the demand and the customer service that comes with this job. And Duncan did a great job in training me and preparing me for this role and truly for a career in aviation. Going back to NATA and ISBA, they really do a really good job at making sure that every single employee is on the same page and is trained at the same standard. And, speaking from experience, I think if, you're somebody out there that is interested in a career like this, it's never too late and you can never have enough experience. We're all learning in this and we all have things that we could be better at and, learn from. And, I'm still learning and I think it's a great position to be in. So to answer the question, no, I think anybody can do it. And as long as you have the drive and the ability to interact with people on this scale, we'd be happy to have you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mason. A couple more questions, then we're going to wrap this thing up. We had Dalton ask, you mentioned defueling an aircraft earlier in the presentation. Why do you do that?
Well, one of the reasons is being an MRO, it's part of the maintenance requirements. And so if an aircraft comes in for a paint job before it goes into the paint facility, it's got to be defueled. Some of the maintenance events required, they need to top off, check the calibrations of the fuel gauges. They look for any structural errors in the aircraft itself, make sure the tanks are clean. That's usually a majority of the time why the aircraft needs defueled.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy. We are about out of time, like I said, so I'm going to wrap this up. There's a couple questions we didn't get to, so we will have one of our team members reach out to you via email, and we will get those answered. I put Bob and Troy's contact information up on the slide, so if you guys have any questions, reach out to them, shoot them an email. They'd love to help you out in any way they can. So for those of you who have never heard of Duncan Aviation, quick background. We're the largest privately owned business jet service provider in the world, and we've been owned and operated by the Duncan family since our founding in 1956. We offer every service you can need and truly are a one-stop shop for business aircraft. I invite you to check out our website, Duncan Aviation.aero, to learn more. And lastly, I invite you to check out our resources page at DuncanAviation.aero/resources. There you will find all of our past webinars, podcasts, time-lapse videos, fact sheets, galleries, news, and brochures. Also, like I said earlier, check us out on social media. Give us a follow, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, Instagram. It's a great way to check out all the awesome stuff we do and see all these cool pictures that these guys send. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate your time, and take care.